Hi, and welcome to my craft room. My name is Kelsey. I also call myself Dinosaur Mama, and today we are making paper lilies for Easter. If you are new here, welcome. I like to bring you new craft projects every week, as well as crafting tips and tricks. So this week's craft is the Easter lily. We are going to be making it out of cardstock with some floral wire, and these make great bouquets as well as a great addition to any Easter decor you might be making. To download the free SVG file, you will find a link below in the description, which will go to my blog post, and you can download there as well as find all of the materials and tools used. So to get started, we're gonna go into Cricut Design Space and then into Silhouette Studio, and then we'll get started assembling. Let's get crafting. So we'll start in Cricut Design Space, and first thing you're going to want to do is look at your biggest petal, which there's 3 big petals and 3 small petals, and we are going to want to have these close to 4 inches, which they're already there. You can even make them a little bit smaller if you want, but I'm just going to resize them down. You don't want it too big because then it really will make a very, very large flower. So I'm just going to size it down a little bit more, and we should be good to go. So there it is. My total size of the entire file right now is 8.857 inches in width by 9.706 inches in height. So you can go ahead, change any colors that you want to, but everything is the right size now, and you can send this over to your machine to be cut. Make sure you are resizing everything, because if you resize just one thing, your whole file will be off. So you can go ahead and hit make, and everything will sort onto the proper color mats. And I'm going to cut everything out with the medium cardstock setting on fast mode. But I'm using an Explorer Air 2 and a Maker. I know fast mode is not available on the newer machines. So I forgot to resize in here on Silhouette Studio, but you want your petals, the larger ones, to be around 4 inches high, and you're going to want to resize everything before you send it over. Don't resize just one piece. You want to make sure everything's being resized together. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to move I'm going to sort everything by color. That's what I should say. I'm going to sort everything by color, so I'm going to move all of my stuff onto here. And I'm going to move all my green off. Okay, and this is how I have been running my projects. You can do this however you'd like, but I am going to go here, and then I'm going to go to send. You can move these however you'd like on your mat, but you will just change all of your settings over here. I tend to use the textured heavy cardstock setting for most of my cardstocks. However, I always say test your settings before you send it. So you would send after you load your media, and then you can just kind of grab everything and move it off, and then grab your next set and move it on, and then send that to your machine as well. I think I'm missing a leaf. There it is. Send that over as well. And then you'd repeat that for the last step. So that's how you set that up in Silhouette Studio. If you'd like a PDF version of the SVG file, please send me an email to kelsey@dinosaurmama.com, and I will send you over the PDF of this. I'm just not sure if that is something people are looking for, but I will gladly make a PDF version of all of these for you to use if you want to cut them out by hand, or maybe use them with like felt or something like that. So once you have all of your pieces cut out, we can get started on our assembly. So we're going to start with our coloring. Now, I am using an eyeshadow palette. It's a cheap eyeshadow palette. It's not like fancy or anything. You can get one at your drugstore or whatever you want to do. Just get like a rainbow palette. And I'm using Q-tips. I found them to be the most useful when using eyeshadow. I've tried paintbrushes, but it just doesn't give the same effect, and you don't get as much pigment on them. And for the lilies, you can color these however you want. I have found that a lot of lilies have darker colors on the outside of the petals and kind of in the center. And then they also have those brown dots all over them. Now, I used the Q-tip and the makeup for that as well, but you can also use a brown pen or colored pencil, which I wish I would have gone back and done. However, you know, we're learning as we go through these, so I just feel like my dots were a little too big. So I would suggest using like a colored pencil, a marker, or even just a smaller fine tip Q-tip if you have one. So go ahead and do all of your shading. You can also use alcohol inks or even paint to do this, whatever you want to use to shade. I've used all of those for my paper flowers. So it's totally up to you how you want to color. You can also just use the paper and not add any more depth or texture to it. Again, I just provide the SVG file and the template, and I leave the rest up to you. Now you are going to want to organize these between the big petals and the small petals. The big petals are going to be our our inside petals, and the smaller ones are going to go on the outside. So we are going to curl these. I am using a bone tool. You can curl them all at once. You probably will get some of the makeup on your fingers, so make sure you're washing your hands if you're switching between colors. But you're just going to give them a slight curve. So I am grabbing my 18 gauge floral wire, and I am going to cut 2 pieces off of this to start. I want them to be about the same length, and this is going to be our little stemma, I think that's what it's called, inside the lily. So we're going to have 3 of those inside. You can of course make more if you want to, but I'm just going to go with 3. And so you're going to cut 2 pieces that are equal in length. I did mine about 3 inches, maybe even a little less than that, but I would keep it about at least an inch smaller than your petals. So mine were 4 inches, and so I did them about 3 inches. And now I'm taking those small rectangles that we cut out, and I'm just curling them up. I use my tweezers to give them a little curl to get it started. I'm going to use my hot glue to attach it to one of those floral wires. And there are 3 of these rectangles, so you'll do 2 on the smaller ones and then 1 on the long one that we left, that we did not cut. Our next step is to add on our petals to our little stems that we just made. So there is like a little loop that you can use to glue it around the stem, and you want this piece that we just made with the floral wire to stick up into our petal. So I grabbed my bigger petals, and I am going to now add in that little stem and wrap it around. And you see I'm kind of making it so that's flush with the bottom. That's what you want. And you don't want it to be too high up into that petal. You want it to have, as you see, it can pull away. So you don't want to glue the whole thing. I only glued about a 1/2 inch up. So you want it to be secure, but not completely tied down. And you're going to repeat this for all 3 of the larger petals, except for on the last one, you're going to use that long stem that we still have, because that's going to be the main stem of our flower. So again, I'm making this flush to the bottom. I'm wrapping around the bottom of the petal, and then I am keeping it not glued completely down. So the same thing is going to go with the last petal. The only difference here is I'm not going to close that little piece at the bottom all the way around the stem. I'm going to use that to kind of help clamp on those other 2 petals that we've already made. So this is going to be our last petal. Again, you see I kind of placed it where it was about the same amount of length down. So it's still about that 2 to 3 inches like the other stems were. And now I'm going to start attaching on my petals. And so I'm putting them in a triangle kind of way. I'm trying to keep them evenly spaced as much as I can. And I'm wrapping those together. So there is the beginning of our lily. Those are the first 3 petals that we have on. And now I'm grabbing one of the green spokes, I guess you could say. It's the 3 pieces. I do have a hole already in there for you, but obviously depending on the gauge of your floral wire, you might need to make it a little wider, but I'm using an 18 gauge and it does fit really well. And you're going to slide this up, and then each one of those is going to be glued on to a petal. It helps secure it on so that everything stays onto the flower, as well as makes it look a little bit more realistic as much as we can with a paper flower. And of course you can always do both sides of the petals. I tend to just do the top of the petals, and maybe that's just because, I don't know, I'm just showing you how to make it. I always, to be honest, I kind of forget that I'm supposed to do both sides, but you can definitely do both sides if you want to. So you're just going to glue these 3 little pieces down. You can also use craft glue for this if you don't want to burn your fingers, but you're going to place them up onto the petal flush. So I'm just using my finger there to place it on. And this will also help you keep it at the same equal distance that it needs to be at. And now we are going to start putting on our outer petals, and I am going to basically fill in those spaces that we made. So I am going in right underneath. If you notice, I'm like on the green bit thing basically with my new petals, and I'm trying to fill in that space. So this one kind of went over to the right a little too much, but you want to fill in the space. Now you can always cut more petals and make it have more. Lilies tend to have 6 petals, but of course you can always, it's your flower, do whatever you want. So I am going to go around in those 3 spaces and fill those in. I'm just adding glue onto the bottom and then gluing them on around that green spoke that we just put on and filling in the space. So you're going to want to keep this as flush as possible and try to fill in that space as evenly as possible. And now, just like before with that other green spoke, I'm pushing this up and I'm going to glue the 3 pieces down onto the new petals that we made. So this is no different than the first time we slid this up and did it. You're going to use your craft glue to secure them on. And again, this makes it more secure and also makes it look a little bit more realistic. And do your best to keep this as flush to the petals as possible. And our very last step is to curl our leaves and attach this onto our stem. You can definitely cut more leaves as well. I only provided 2, but you can always duplicate that in whatever design space you're using and cut out more for each one. And I'm going to put these kind of close to the top on my lily, but that's totally up to you where you want to place them. And just like before, I'm putting hot glue on the bottom, and there's a little rectangle at the bottom of these leaves to attach it around your stem. So you can cut out as many as you want to make it look even more full. And really what you want to do when you're making this flower, just try to keep those petals as even as possible and cinch together if you can. You don't want to have huge gaps when you're making it. You don't want there to be too many overlapping petals. So just keep that in mind. And then of course, color as you want, shade as you want, paint, make whatever colors. I love seeing when you make these flowers and share them with me. So please don't forget to do that. I love making them for you. So I think this will be perfect for Easter crafting. And here are 2 lilies that I have made, and I hope you enjoyed making these with me. Thank you so much for joining me today as we made our Easter paper lilies. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and this free template. If you want new craft projects brought to you every single week, do not forget to subscribe to my channel. I try to bring you something different every single Friday so that you can continue to craft for free with my free templates. If you learned something from this and you enjoyed the way I teach, please don't forget to give this a thumbs up. It helps me so much. And share this with one of your crafty friends if they also want to make some paper lilies. I will see you soon in my craft room, and stay crafty.